Our Listen is an initiative that sits underneath the charity. The name of the charity is MCH Psychological Services, and we have two arms of that charity, and one is called Minds Matter, and that looks after the mental health of people with cancer and long-term conditions, and Our Listen is the other initiative, and that's what we're working with Zurich on. And we look there are three arms. It's very confusing. Three arms of Our Listen, and one works in schools, one works in the community, and one works in the workplace. And all of the arms are dealing with mental health, so early intervention, mental health, looking after people's worries, whatever they are, and helping people to find strategies to cope with them.
So in terms of the groups of people that use these services, it's quite wide-ranging then, in that case?
It's very wide-ranging, actually. In fact, Our Listen potentially will touch everybody on the Isle of Man, and that's certainly our intention.
Tell me a bit about how this collaboration came about, if you could.
Yeah, so in 2018, I was introduced to I'll Listen, and I was told about the kind of wonderful aspiration and vision they had for mental health prevention and early intervention on the Isle of Man. So as I'll Listen's aspirations and aims perfectly aligned with the Zurich Foundation's 3 pillars, I met with Andrea and Annabelle, and we started a discussion really about how Zurich and the Zurich Foundation could help them. And we very quickly got an application put together for what we call a local grant that the foundation offer. And 18 months later, here we are with, thankfully, the accepted application that, as Andrea said, will hopefully see a national impact for how we deal with early intervention and prevention of mental health issues on the Isle of Man.
So a little while in the making, and it's also going to span 3 years as the project, so it's quite a bit to do in that time, I think.
Absolutely, don't get me wrong, there's a lot to do, there's high aspirations, there's a high bar for us to reach, but we are all exceedingly confident that we can reach everything that's been set out in the agreement between the foundation and I'll Listen. Their aspirations really were the foundation for the agreement, and I'll Listen have always laid out a very comprehensive plan for the Isle of Man. So we're really excited to enable them to be able to accomplish it.
I mentioned that this is spanning 3 years and approximately 15,000 students. So is that the whole student body of the island, do we think?
That's an estimate of the whole student body of the island, yeah.
And what sorts of things are you kind of hoping to achieve in that time?
So the work in schools we've been doing for a year. We've done it for a pilot year before our work with Zurich started, when we first started our I'll Listen initiative, and we worked with 2 pilot schools. That was King William's College and QE2. They allowed our listeners to go in and provide very low level sort of peer-to-peer support. So anyone who was worried about bullying, social media, exam stress, they could book to come and see one of our listeners, and we have the figures on that were really good, and the outcomes. So we measure the outcomes of everybody that we see. Do they feel better for the intervention? Because we're not going to carry on with anything if we're not doing good. That's one of the rules that we made very early on. It has to be a positive outcome. And so we keep very careful stats. That's something that we notice that the Isle of Man is quite short on. Statistics around the need. And so we've tried in the first year to build up those statistics. So working with those 2 schools, we've provided a great service with listeners. Now, our listeners are unqualified practitioners, but the thing to emphasise there is that they get oversight from our clinicians. So I'll Listen and MCH Psychological Services, we're based in everything we do is based in evidence, and all our listeners are overseen by qualified clinical psychologists, and so they have regular supervision and regular training from them, which is what makes the model work. So it's great, and it's worked really well, and now we're able to take that model into hopefully all of the schools. I've got a meeting with the Department of Education in the next couple of weeks, and what we want to do is work collaboratively with them to make sure that we're able to offer a service that complements what they already offer in schools, and work with them for a real collaboration.
That was my next question, and I think you've half answered it already. What is the relationship like with DESC, or how do you kind of work with them so far?
It's very good. I think they wanted to see what we were about. So they wanted to see the outcome of our first pilot year, which they now have. We've sent them a report on the work that we've done and our aspirations for the future. And it's all been met very positively with them. It's really important for us that we work collaboratively with education and also with health. That's how we're going to make a difference, is to work in collaboration with other agencies and also other third sector organisations. So we're very positive that there will be a good outcome there.
We hear a lot about the stigma, if that's the right word, around mental health. And do you find that kind of more informal, perhaps, approach in people's comfort zones finds a bit more success than what you might think of as the traditional kind of more clinical side, perhaps?
That's what we're all about, really. It is informal, and it's. I think when we were just talking about this before, strangely enough, and Ruth knows exactly what I'm about to say, and that is that a number of people have said to us, are we, by launching this initiative, going to create a generation of young people who think that they have to rely on therapists? And absolutely not. That is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. If we start talking to young people when they're 5, when they start school, and when they go through all the transitions, so from secondary school from primary school to secondary school, and then on to university, and then into the workplace, and then into retirement, we're learning how to deal with transitions. Life is not easy, and whilst we'd like to think it is, we know that it isn't. So talking to young people from a very early age about resilience in an informal and even fun way is the key, we think. And then those people who need more, and there will be those who have a mental illness, a long-term condition that they need other treatment for, those people will be referred on to the statutory services. And that's how we hope we can help them, by reducing their waiting lists, by going in with our early interventions and stopping people from becoming poorly.
Just coming back to Zurich's involvement, this isn't the company's first foray into work with mental health by any means.
No, you're absolutely correct. So mental health and well-being is one of our kind of primary concerns within Zurich, within the foundation, as well as Zurich International on Ireland. So on Ireland, we've reduced we introduced our wellbeing website that during lockdown came out, and I'll Listen contributed towards that as well. In terms of the foundation, what they've done is one of their central pillars has always been inclusivity and wellbeing, and so through that they've launched particular initiatives in Ireland, for example, Tackle Your Feelings, that extended to Australia as well. They're really looking at a global approach as to how we deal with mental health and wellbeing. So no, by no means a new subject on Zurich's radar.
We spoke about the fact that this is about 18 months in the making, but the timing of this, given the conditions society find itself in at the minute, puts perhaps a different angle on what's happening. A lot of charities have spoken to us as well about financial pressures in the wake of COVID-19. Is that kind of perhaps a view you'd share from the charity's point of view?
Yeah, I think it has put a lot of charities under pressure. Fundraising, as in the traditional sense, has not been able to happen. Every charity on the Isle of Man is offering a brilliant service, and they all need financial support. We are not government funded, so everything that we do, we get through grants and trusts and the generosity of the public of the Isle of Man. So undoubtedly it's put a great pressure on every organisation. And just lucky for us that we were about to enter this partnership with Zurich. And so in the short term, it's taken a little bit of that pressure off us. But what we have promised Zurich is that in the 3 years, we will make our charity sustainable moving forward. So we're not sitting on our laurels by any means and thinking, no, we've got some money here. We need to build a sustainable future for our organisation. So you will see a lot of us in the fundraising arena as well.
So is it with a view to future projects? I know you don't want to look too far into the future. It's
with a view to continuing the work that we will start with Z Zurich. 3 years goes very quickly, and we would like to think that in 10 years' time, our Listen will be, well, before that, our Listen will be a household name, but in 10 years' time, it will be embedded in the way that we bring our children up. working on their mental health.
Yeah, definitely. And from the foundation's perspective, when our listen is successful, positive tone there, but when our listen is successful, actually, this can be used as a blueprint for similar communities, whether that be island communities or smaller volumed communities, potentially globally. So the foundation are really looking at the success of our listen as that blueprint to be able to lift the model elsewhere. So we could see the reach of Isle Listen as a model going a lot further than the Isle of Man, which is a particularly exciting prospect. And that's where Zurich again and Zurich International and the Foundation hope to bring our expertise and our reach into being able to do that, so that we can make our listen not just a household name on the Isle of Man, but further afield.